Hope. We have Hope Parker on the podcast today. Hope Parker is a professional dancer, dance instructor, Pilates instructor, personal trainer, corrective exercise specialist, nutrition coach, and HOTWORX Virtual Instructor. She moved to New York City at the age of 17 to pursue her dance career and spent 4 years there. She moved to Utah to dance with Odyssey Dance Theatre, where she spent 8 years touring internationally and dancing principal roles in well-known shows, including Thriller, It's a Wonderful Life, and many more. Hope instructs dance around Utah, mostly teaching ballet, injury prevention, and nutrition, as well as teaches private dance lessons and choreographs for studios and independent dancers. When Hope isn't working, she loves to spend time with her boyfriend and 2 dogs. Quite the intro, Hope. You're a busy gal.
Very, very busy. Yes. I keep very, very busy.
Yeah. How do you manage all of that?
I'm still trying to figure that out, actually. It's very overwhelming, but because I love it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think what keeps me going, though, is the fact that I love it and I have a lot of support behind me.
Good.
Yeah.
So
and my drive for it.
Yeah.
That's what keeps me going.
What kind of support do you have? Just like family, friends?
Family. Like, my parents are the best. They've always been behind me 100%. Mm-hmm. My boyfriend, everyone. They
believe in you.
Yeah.
Good.
And I've got myself too. Like, I've always known, I haven't always known exactly what I want to do, but I've always known no matter what, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to make it happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really nice to have. I feel like I would love to have some
I
of that.
question myself, right? Like, I have a lot of doubts constantly in some way or another, but it's also like there's that underlying drive because you want something so bad that you are going to make it happen some way or another.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is there.
Right.
And because you want it bad enough or badly enough, you're going to make it happen. So
I believe that.
There's that faith there.
Yeah. That dedication
Yeah.
to your drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not for everyone, but that's what's for you, and you can see that very clearly.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you started dancing young, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? Take us on your journey.
So I was actually pretty late to dance specifically.
Interesting.
I mean, I had a little bit of an intro when I was little. I think most people do. Mm-hmm. Most kids do. And then I went into cheer and gymnastics. So I had my very athletic, intro, I guess. But then dance, I started when I was 9. So I was pretty late to the dance game. Made up with a lot of privates. Made up with that.
Really?
Lots of very strict private lessons.
Yeah.
I was trying to make up being late to the game. So.
Well, and so competitive dance.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of that when I think I quit around the time you started. And then I got back into it later, which I will not talk about because that was so embarrassing. But it's hardcore. And those kids start at 2, 3, 4.
They start very young. And even the kids I teach, I actually met someone recently at the gym, and she recognized me from somewhere, and she was like, "Hey, I have a dancer, and or I have a daughter. She's only 18 months." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool, good for you." And she goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna put her in dance soon." And I was like, "Okay." She goes, "Start him young, right? Like, should I do that now?" And I was like, I guess. And she was just very, very serious.
Oh.
And I mean, you totally can. But I've never thought of it that way.
Well, that, and also she's also kind of asking parenting advice, and you're like, this is up
and
to
for
you.
me, over my head. Yeah, I was like, I'm not at that level yet. But yeah, but some people do take it that seriously though. For me, I was like, maybe for coordination, for other reasons, sure, put them in there. But yeah.
Don't make them compete at 1 or 2, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, so private lessons got you up to speed, and then you just loved it?
I loved it, but it was, like I said, that dedication, and there was something about it that I was like, oh, I like this a lot. But I didn't know what it was yet. And then I realized it was exercise science, like biomechanics behind it. Okay. It was the movement. It was, what is my body doing? Like, something about this is really fascinating. It wasn't really the performance aspect behind it. The costumes, didn't really care for that. I mean, that was fun, but I was like, no, there's something deeper, like, behind all of this. What is my body doing? And because of my dad and what he did, he was a power lifter, and we worked out together. That was a big thing in my family. Fitness has always been a big thing. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why, well, I know why now that I'm older.
Yeah, hindsight, right?
With what I do for a living on a daily basis, I'm like, oh, it makes more sense now.
So much more of a lifestyle that you grew up in instead of like, okay, we're going to take a break from this and then go dance.
Yeah. And it wasn't, and what's weird is it was never like pushed on me either.
Oh, okay.
But because my family loved it and it was just part of our daily life, like that. That's nice. And my dad did it and he loved it. Yeah.
Open that door for you and let you decide.
Yeah. And we made it fun. Like my dad and I would talk about anatomy, and that was our thing for fun. I don't know who does that.
You're 9 at this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But my dad and I would like have push-up competitions, and he would teach me how to do a proper push-up. And so he was
explaining the fundamentals
yes,
of it. Okay.
And the technique. And so nowadays when I work with my dancers or my young students, like that's what I'm teaching them.
Okay.
And I absolutely love it.
Do you think they're able to stick to it better because they understand it that way? I feel like I would. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm going through the motions sometimes. I will say when I'm in like your guys' virtual classes in HOTWORX, when you guys are like telling me what to do with certain parts of my body because I'm so stressed about all of it, like bring your shoulders down, like engage your core. I'm like, oh, I really actually do need to be reminded of all these things as I'm doing it. And so I understand that side of it, I guess, which I didn't realize I did. That's so interesting.
Yeah. Well, there's so many cues. There's so many muscles involved. There's so many things you can think about. I mean, it's endless. Yeah. There's endless things, right? But it gives you a perspective of like why it's important. Yeah. And then as far as the dancers go, I can talk about this all day, but as far as the dancers go, when I work with them, I'm like, hey, I'm not just here to give you boot camp right now. Right. Especially when it's like a strength and conditioning class. I go in and I'm like, okay, I could give you 1,000,000 push-ups, for instance, for no reason, and not give you a reason why I'm giving it to you. Yeah. Just to be mean. Or I could.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I could be mean and be like, okay, run a ton of laps, give me burpees, do this, this, and this, and be terrible to them, which is kind of fun sometimes, right? Or I could actually explain why we're doing it and why it relates to their dancing, why it makes them stronger, maybe why it helps their injury prevention. Give them the actual reasons, give them a program to help them make them stronger, and then they actually respect it. They realize, oh, this is why it makes me stronger. This is why it does A, B, and C. And then they want to keep doing it. And that's really important so they can take it and they can apply it.
Well, and then they're using themselves as the tool. Like, I'm getting myself here because of, and you're the resource, right? But that's just, wow. I've never thought about dance that way. And obviously, I could watch dance all day. Mm-hmm. I think it's beautiful in the things people are able to do with their bodies and the stories that they're able to tell. Mm-hmm. Understanding it from this perspective is so much more interesting to me. Instead, it is art, but it's also more like mathematical.
It's very sciencey.
Sciencey, yes. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, it is beautiful. It's artistic. I love the artistic part, and I love the storytelling to this day. I mean, that's what I developed later on. I said, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to tell a story. Yeah.
So let's go there.
Yeah, definitely.
How did you get there?
Later on. Yeah. Later on, right, moving to New York, it was still a big technical thing, and I learned even more about that in New York. I think the more and more I worked with other dancers, especially partnering, that's when I realized it wasn't about myself anymore. Getting jobs and like auditioning and showing off yourself. Yes, you have to have the technique, but you also have to work with other people. You have to tell a director's story. You have to tell that production or whatever you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. People are paying for a ticket. They want to see a show. Yeah. At the end of the day. Yeah. They don't really care. Most people don't care what you did to get the trick that you're doing or to get that movement. They don't really care like how you put your body, together. Yeah. They want to see Hamilton or whatever production you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see the cool moves. And then the story on top of it. So it became about acting. How can you move your body? How can you portray a story? So I had to figure out, how can I connect with the characters? And that was really difficult, especially if it had to do with something more mature than I had experienced in my own life.
Okay.
If it had to do with relationships that I had never experienced.
Yeah.
Everything up until that point for me was all dance, or school and like work. And so I was like, you want me to pretend I've been in a relationship and like a serious relationship? Okay, yeah. I guess. And even past that point, it was still very career focused and I was still very serious about that. So it was hard.
How did you tune into those roles to find that? Because I'm assuming you have to have some sort of like empathy to understand, but then if you've never experienced it, how do you get that empathy?
It was a lot of acting.
Okay.
And when I say that, I was pretending, definitely. And then it was like trying to tune into that. I was trying to like really empathize and like really connect with it. And I think luckily I am very empathetic.
Yeah. And
I do I connect with people on that level, so it is easier, but being able to portray it is different though.
Oh, like absolutely.
You can like connect with people. You might be able to, but being able to portray it
in their shoes
is really hard.
Yeah.
Or it's really hard to make people understand it and be that actress, or even show it on your face is way different. So, or through your body or through your movement.
Yeah, I was going to say body language is louder than we think, huh?
Yeah.
And so you have to really, like, if your toe's not even in it.
Yeah.
The rest of your body might.
And they're like, oh, your eye is, you're looking 2 millimeters to the left wrong. And you're like, oh man, I'm sorry. Or that didn't look happy enough. And you're like, oh, I was trying to be this way. So, yeah.
So was it a rough 4 years? Just like really rigorous?
Yeah. Go. Very stereotypical New York, like on the go 24/7, because in that lifestyle, you're trying to fit as much as you can into every hour of the day.
Yeah.
But I loved it.
Really?
Like I was like a workhorse and I was like, okay, I'm up for anything. Let's go. I'm here to work.
Good.
And yeah, it was like perfect, honestly, for me. And I have no regrets.
So what made you leave after 4 years?
I got a job here in Utah with that company, with Odyssey, and I did not expect to ever be here.
Really?
Like,
so you're
long
not
term.
from here?
From Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just thought it was going to be a couple month long gig.
8 years later.
Yeah. Seriously, though, I was like, oh, this will be fun. Like, I just thought it was going to be a 2-month-long gig because that was the contract. And just like any other dance gig in New York at the time, like you just send in your info, you audition. And at the time they auditioned in New York and a couple other places, and they brought their people.
Cool.
Audition, you do it. So I did it. And then the next day auditioned for another thing. Like it was just a daily thing I was doing.
Wow.
And I had heard about the company from someone else that I knew back in the day, but it wasn't like a big deal. I just said, okay, let me go in there and see how it goes. And did it, came out here, did it. And it was a couple month long gig, like I said. And then went back to New York, finished out that season or that year. Next summer comes along. I contact the director and I was like, hey, I would love to do, which at the time it was Thriller. And I said, hey, I would love to do Thriller again. I had a blast. So I sent in my info again, basically re-auditioned without having to audition in person.
Right.
He just said, send me an updated reel of you dancing. I just want to see what you've been up to.
Cool.
I send him all my updated stuff in New York, get the job again for Thriller, go out and do the 2 months. And then at the end of the 2 months, he basically asked me to stay for Christmas shows. At this point, I stay for Christmas, so I kind of sublet my New York apartment. And then he asked me to stay for the rest of the year.
Wow.
So it was like going month at a time at that point.
Is that stressful?
Yes.
Is that kind of like living in limbo a little
Yes.
bit?
And that for me is not good.
No, I mean, for anyone.
For anyone.
I can't imagine just
But
living your life month to month.
I don't like.
In a new state, too.
Yeah.
So how did you get through that?
I mean, luckily at the time, like my parents are great, and
Their support.
Yeah, and they knew that part of this career and like this dream that I had, it was going to be like this. And that's why I went to a trade school for dance, and that's why I went that route instead of the college route. They knew it was going to be like this. And so we kind of had an agreement, and it was like, okay, we'll help you for a little while longer. So it was subletting in New York. Dude. And I was, paying for a place out here, but it was basically month to month. It was stressful though.
I will say, having parents that are willing to help you as an adult, I can understand that as well, is like one of the biggest blessings. To like have these two people who believe in you so much to help you get to your dream. That's so amazing. Yeah. Round of applause for your parents. Right? Jeez.
I know. Well, and they also knew though that like I was not going to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
They knew that I was not out partying in New York. They knew I was not we had an agreement.
Yeah.
But that's how I've always been too. Like, I will work hard. I'm not gonna.
Totally.
They knew I was taking this seriously because they knew that I was good enough to make it happen as well. Like, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you got to the point where you're here more, 8 years is a long time to be living month to month. I'm sure it wasn't that way
it wasn't. Time. No, this was just a few months. Yeah. This was like 4 maybe. So, but finally I just went up to the director and I'm like, hey, we gotta talk about this. Like I have to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Is this a season? Am I gonna stay? Because I have this apartment in New York. I have to figure out what I'm doing. And then he finally just gave me an answer. And so I decided for myself, I would love to have a consistent paycheck as a dancer, which is really hard to find.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get that. And it was actually pretty good money for a dance job. I also knew that for my future fitness career, which is what I wanted, I would be able to focus on personal training and all these other things that I wanted if I stayed here. And I knew I liked the environment as well. So...
I mean, it's similar to Colorado.
Yeah,
right?
I was like, oh, I can have my car back. I don't have to, I don't have to rely on the subway anymore. There were a lot of pros at the time. Yeah. I was kind of like exhausted from New York life at that point as well. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I was like, okay, let me give Utah a shot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it went well.
Here we are. I stayed and I had this company and this family for 8 years. Wow. And then that's where I also built up like my fitness part of my career.
Clientele and all of that.
And all the certifications and everything.
Very cool. So now, where are you?
Oh my gosh.
I know you're doing so much at once, but this whole journey brought you here. Like, where's Hope today?
Wow. Yeah. Still doing a lot of things. Still feel like my brain some days I'm like so overwhelmed, but in a good way because again, it's things that I'm passionate about. Because I still have so many things that I want to do that I'm like
what?
I mean, there's so many more things. I want to open a gym eventually and I'm working on that. There's lots of things.
Yeah.
So continuing with HOTWORX is where I still want to go with that.
Which is where we met.
Yes, we did.
I should preface that. I was fortunate enough to run into you at the gym once, and I was like, wait a second. I see this chick on the TV. I said, is this... Yeah. Hold on. And then I was like, what do we owe the pleasure? I think I said something stupid.
That is what you said.
That.
No, it was so sweet, though, because... It's weird because at the time, like, it had only been a little while after I'd been a VI, and no one really... Like, at that location, no one really talks to me. I don't know what it is. And I think maybe it's the time of day.
Yeah. Mornings.
Yeah. I don't know. People are in their zone, and I don't want to be obnoxious and bug them.
Yeah.
So I don't bug people. And I'm kind of quiet. Like, I don't want to be bugged either too much. And I'm just like, I'm going to let people work out.
Honestly, the whole time I was working out after, I was like, I should have shut my mouth.
No, I loved it, though.
It's just kind of who I am. I'm like, word vomit. And so I'm like, I'll either go up to you and then regret it later or not regret it later.
But see,
I don't really not go up to people.
See, I'm working on like, well, that's something I'm working on, though, is like the voice inside my head, stopping myself from doing things.
Yeah.
Or saying things.
Networking is like my lifeblood. I don't know. When I first started dating my boyfriend, he's like, why do we run into people everywhere we go? He's like, I don't understand. This is strange. And I'm like, I talk to people when I'm in public. I think it comes from, I was not this way growing up, but when I moved to LA from rural Utah at 18, I had to like try to make friends at the grocery store or random places. And so I just got really used to, if I'm like shopping, say I'm at Target or something, and someone's like near me and they're looking at the same things, I'm like, this is so cute, huh? That is just who I am. And if you don't want to talk to me, you don't have to, but I'll probably try to talk to you if I'm in the mood. And I think that's where it came from. And then it's kept opening up doors. And so I just keep doing it. And now we're here because I opened my mouth at the gym. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. But see, that's good. That's a great thing, though. And I'm trying to make myself do that more often.
Well.
Because it doesn't hurt, right?
No. You
It
just
brought
have
us
to
here.
be like.
And I'm like trying to
here.
just make myself do it instead of being like, oh, maybe they won't be annoyed that you said hi.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're actually intimidated, or maybe they are thinking the same exact stuff as you.
Well, and I think also.
Maybe they don't care at all.
No, everyone has their own, we're all in our own worlds, just like hovering around each other, it feels like. And so they're probably just in their head about something or didn't know it was you for sure and didn't want to sound silly.
Yeah. So, we did meet at HOTWORX, which was pretty cool.
Which is also the best gym I've ever been to.
It's pretty amazing.
Heard about it because I was an assistant manager at Athleta and I was doing community events. And some girl from one of the locations came in and she's like, I'd love to do an event with you guys and come like teach something. And so we set it up and I went in and I just like did a free session and it was during COVID. And I was like, this is so rad. This is so rad. I have a whole sauna to myself.
This is great.
Yeah. I was like, this is not a bad setup. And, it's not the cheapest a month, but to me, I saw so much value. And it's something that I set aside for every month, like, because I want to keep this membership. It helps, like, for probably like the first year I went, I would just go and just sit or stretch in the sauna. I wouldn't even do the exercises. I just like wasn't in a place.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. And so it was actually shortly before we met that I started doing the exercises, and poor me, I looked at them and I was like, these can't be that hard. These can't. I'm sitting in here like barely sweating at 130 degrees because I'm just chilling and I'm stretching and it's better than the winter. And then I'm like, oh, these are hardcore. These are so intense, but like just intense enough, like, because you can always stop if you need to stop. My body changes so rapidly without even like much, because it's hitting you from so many different things. I'll let you explain HOTWORX. This is my experience.
I'm still not an expert myself, but
it's just like,
never be an expert.
Who's the guy that started it?
Steve.
He sits up there on that screen and tells you like about all these perks and why 3D training is so important. And I'm just like, yeah, hell yeah. And today I went in for like 15 minutes. I left being like, so that was harder than any like 2-hour gym workout I've done years ago. And I feel so good.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it's so worth and it's 24 hours keypad. I feel safe going in alone. Like, I cannot speak more highly of HOTWORX, honestly.
I think if you are open to the full benefits, like you have to be willing.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Just like anything else. I think you have to be willing to be open to all of those things, but even the mental part of it, like you don't realize what you're getting from it. Does that make sense?
I think I originally like was going because I was like, oh, infrared helps with depression.
For instance. Yeah, exactly. Like, but if you're open to that, I think some people are like, oh, that's overrated, or
not true.
Even meditation. Like I'm still kind of like, I haven't even gotten into full meditation benefits yet in my life, and I know it helped me. But I know that being in there alone if I get that time alone, amazing.
Yeah.
And having the added heat and the added infrared, like that's going to be even better. That's the cherry on top.
Well, and I just think it's so important. We're not detoxing enough. We're not sweating enough day to day. Like even just like being outside in the heat, that's not enough sweat to get your lymphatic system moving. You know what I mean? And so I've even been like dry brushing before I go in the morning.
Yeah.
So I sweat way more when I do that. And I come back, it hasn't even been a full hour. I'm completely drenched. And then I can take my dog for a walk and I've got the whole day ahead of me. You know what I mean? It's just like you're getting these workouts in 30 minutes, essentially. And you can go conquer the rest of your day. You're getting so much. I'm just so much stronger even after 2 weeks of doing this consistently. I know I have said I've gone. But you like fall off the wagon and then you can easily get back on.
Yep.
Or maybe the wagon just slows down.
The wagon slows down. But there's nothing wrong with that because that's life though.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to be realistic.
And flexible, right? Like with your schedules and dedication.
And I think it's, I think also it tackles, I think the good thing about it is it tackles like a wider spectrum and it's more than just it's not just one area of fitness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's the cool part, and that's kind of what you said, but it's that mental aspect as well.
Yeah. And I think, too, like, I'm the type, I grew up playing volleyball, and it was, like, a lot of yelling at me, you know, and I went to college and wasn't doing sports anymore. And I'm like, I'm so sick of people yelling at me at the gym.
Right.
Like, this is not my vibe.
Stop screaming at me.
So it's nice that you can like go into and find an instructor that works for you.
Yeah.
And then stick to those. Like it's not all the same instructor.
That is so true. You know, it's funny because we get a lot of feedback as instructors. I get a lot of feedback, whether it's like this or, you know, just online. I get daily feedback online all the time, and it's kind of funny. Some of it's really good feedback. Some of it's like, you know, it varies, but it is funny how everyone reacts differently.
We've all got our own baggage going into those saunas, huh?
But it's interesting, or even myself, like I have instructors that I had when I was little, and I will never forget them because maybe they were yelling in my face, and to this day I'm like, I didn't react really well to that. Yeah. Or maybe I loved it and it pushed me and I'm like, yeah, I loved that person because they just pumped me up. Like, it's crazy how it affects you and then it kind of sticks with you.
Yeah, yeah. I even noticed it's also an opportunity for growth too. So like sometimes I'll go to an instructor that's a little more military than I like.
Exactly. And you're like, oh, I kind of want this boot camp moment.
Or it's like, I can like set her aside.
Yeah.
From my feelings and enjoy this exercise. Like it helps me compartmentalize a little bit better. Or like maybe even exposure therapy to a personality that I'm not super comfortable around, but then that'll help me be better around different personalities. You know what I mean? So that's helpful. And I do like that you guys switch throughout too.
No, I think it's good. I think it's good for everyone else too. And it pushes us out of our comfort zones.
Yeah.
I mean, it pushed me when I was able to do like a HIIT session, for instance. I knew what I had to do to step up to make, well, not to make, but to push myself outside of my comfort zone. I was like, all right, here we go. We're going to do HIIT. We got to get the energy up. We got to be a little bit more exciting. We have, you know, and I did what I could to be my version of that.
Yeah.
Which was still me.
Yeah. I think that comes through though, is that HOTWORX is giving you guys, it seems, the ability to present your own self. Obviously there's things that need to be done and said because it's within their structure, but you can tell like this is this person's personality, this is the way they teach, and they are teachers elsewhere. Like it's common knowledge, it seems. So how did you get into being a virtual instructor for HOTWORX? That's so cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. So my mom and dad actually in Colorado, they were doing HOTWORX way before I actually ever did it. And so I went and did a couple sessions with them when I would visit them, and they would come here and visit me. We'd do a couple sessions. I never thought I'd really like it, to be honest, because it was virtual. And I was like, I want real feedback. I want like in-person instruction. And because of COVID, I think because I was an instructor, I was kind of over doing the whole Zoom video thing.
That's fair.
I was just like, no, I miss in-person stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when my local one was being built, was kind of the COVID time. And so I was just over it. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. I don't know.
It's not for me. Maybe.
Yeah. But I was like, no, I'm open to it. And I had been doing some. And I was like, no, it's good for you. Like, I need to give this a shot. And my mom was like, you'd actually be really good at this. You should probably just apply for it. And like most moms, she knew.
Yeah.
Like deep down, she knew I'd probably be pretty decent at it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you're right, I should give this a shot. And I also knew that I had a feeling my company was going to just close.
Okay.
I had heard things through the grapevine. And so I was like, well, maybe this is a sign. I'm hearing things. Yeah, I was like, I'm hearing things. I saw a couple things about them doing their virtual instructor competition. Okay, why not?
Yeah.
So I applied and heard back from them, and they have so many different rounds, and it's like a big process. But that's how it started.
Dude, but you made it through.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And so I listened to her. That's how it started.
Thanks, Mom.
Exactly. And I give her a lot of credit for it because she is like, well, they both are. My parents are great. But she's like always believing in me when I never believe in myself.
Just finding those business opportunities for you before you even know about them.
Yeah, but just a lot of the time, like she's like, no, you would do great at this. And I'm like, no, I don't know.
That's so nice to have people who just truly believe in you.
Yeah.
Keep you going. So HOTWORX is doing, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So right now they're currently, they took their applications, obviously, for this next season of instructors, this next year. And I applied. They're in their top 40, which is just who corporate chose. Okay. And I don't even know how many people applied. They never tell us. But they have a top 40 right now. And every year they go through a voting round. It's about a month long. It goes through June 30th. Every year it's a little different. But this year what they've decided to do is for online voting, they've decided to do a donation round. And it's all paid this time. But every time someone donates or votes, time someone votes, you donate to Sacred Mountain Retreat Center. And so I kind of want to talk about that.
Yes, please do.
I would love to. So Sacred Mountain Retreat Center, I've done more and more research on this, but HOTWORX has been involved with them for a little while now. And they are a nonprofit in South Dakota. Okay. First responders, veterans, military, all of that, and their families. So it's something that's near and dear to my heart because my boyfriend's a vet, and I've just always been extremely passionate about that subject.
Yeah.
So I realized they decided to team up with them. But what I do love about this, though, is that it is bringing more awareness for Sacred Mountain because Sacred Mountain does a lot for them. And, it is a lot more than the VA ever does.
I was going to say the VA is like the government bare minimum.
Yeah.
If that.
It's rough. Yeah. It's really, really rough. Anytime my boyfriend tries to call or get any assistance, it's not good.
It's like prove yourself over and over again.
It's really bad.
Yeah. So do they offer like therapy resources and all the things that the VA should do?
Pretty much. Okay. The cool thing, so when you look into it, the cool thing about it is they've got equine therapy, they've got the HOTWORX saunas there, which is pretty cool. So I don't think most people know about that.
So they're actual HOTWORX partners too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's not just now, but they've had that for a while. They've got a couple of saunas there with all the infrared benefits. They've got the horses. They do all of that. They've got yoga. They basically take them on retreats. I believe it's 5 days at a time. And I'm not any sort of like paid partner or anything.
But this is what you know about it.
This is just the research I've done on it because I said, oh, this is actually really cool. And I knew they partnered with them, but I didn't know much about it until now. So
that's cool. We'll have to link both so people can do their own research as well. But
that would be pretty cool.
the way that you were talking to me before we started, that all of this is very intertwined with mental health and, you know, just getting through the hard times. Like fitness, exercise, whatever you want to call it, can be such a tool for our brains that I don't think is as common knowledge as it should be. Going through my mental health experience the last handful of years, I know for a fact I do better when I'm able to go to the gym, specifically HOTWORX. I haven't really found the same relief with other things as much, but it's interesting that PTSD impacts everyone so differently and at so many different levels. Are you open to sharing your experience with that?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't had any big event happen to myself that I can share about.
Right.
Which I'm lucky.
Yes.
I mean, I think everyone, like, it's subjective. So it's not like I haven't had anything happen.
Everyone's trauma is different.
You know? So it's definitely subjective. But there's been some things recently, and I'm definitely learning as I go, especially with relationships. That's like a big new one for me in my life. But fitness is extremely important. And just moving your body. Yeah. Movement is therapy.
And should be a reward for your body, not a punishment.
Yeah, it definitely should be. And I think back to the punishment thing, you just sparked a thought for me. You know, in the dance world, that's a big punishment. Like using exercise is a big punishment.
Interesting.
Along with food, and you get into kind of the eating disorder. That's probably the closest thing that I can get to. Which is huge over exercise. You get into all of that. It is used as a punishment for ourselves. And so I think that's a big one. But yeah, you need to use it as something that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
And, you know, you get back to Sacred Mountain and how they're using like nature, for instance. They're using that. And they're bringing people in as mentors. They're bringing people in that understand that. They're not bringing in clinicians. So
that's nice.
It's just using exercise. It's using like your body as therapy, and whether that's movement and fitness or just taking a walk.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of why, going back to movement as therapy, that's why I fell in love with Pilates or dance, period. I think because it's therapy.
Yeah. I will say PTSD is something I've been working through the past couple of years. More specifically, I think that's like the catalyst of my depression and anxiety. But I've noticed that moving my body is very scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Having like sexual assault trauma and things like that, I've had to really lean towards like, oh, I'm all of a sudden crying in this exercise or this dance. I tried to do this like hip hop exercise once, and I was like, ugh, this was too much. This was just way too much for my body. And all of the like emotions started coming out. Does that mean that they do a lot more like trauma-informed exercises and have people who are more trauma-informed in that sense leading these workouts, or what does that look like to you?
With Sacred Mountain specifically? I'm not actually sure.
Okay.
As far as like the yoga-based ones, I'm not sure what they would do with that. But most likely they would have people that understand and think like they do, because when you look into it and the people that are talking about it, they're saying that it's mentor-based and it's people that are doing and have, experienced what they have.
Okay.
Because they want people doing what they've done, if that makes sense.
To feel safe and provide that safe space. Awesome.
Because they don't want clinicians talking to them. For instance, with my boyfriend, he was getting the questions right when he walks into the VA of, oh, did you have the feeling you were going to kill yourself? And it's like, why are you asking that when I first walk in the door?
Yeah. Get to know me as a person first.
Yeah, let's have a chat and let's talk about the experiences we had there, and then let's talk about just what makes us us and like get to know each other, and
Yeah.
then we can talk about that stuff later on maybe. And so it's, most likely the yoga is just to get their bodies moving so they physically feel better, and then maybe it gets more emotional after that. That's my guess.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
So navigating a relationship with this, has there been many resources you've been able to find as like
I'm working on that one. Yeah, I think so far it's like figuring it out for myself is a big one. And I think figuring out like the fitness one, that's always been my outlet, and dance has always been my outlet. But movement, like I said, is therapy. So even if, I don't have my company anymore to necessarily be doing shows with every single day or something, but even if I'm able to get to the studio a couple times a week and just move and dance and like just feel good, that makes me feel better. It's that creative outlet.
I was going to say, and it's taking care of yourself before you can help take care of others, right?
And that's a big one I've learned. I started taking over a studio in January, a Pilates studio, and I'm managing it. So I'm seeing the phones, the emails. It's a lot.
Yeah.
On top of cleaning and all the other things, along with everything else I'm doing,
right?
Which is a lot. I love it. I love the organization. I love everything about it. But like you said, you have to make sure that you're taken care of before you can oversee everything else.
So much easier said than done.
Yes.
It's so much easier said than done. Because I think sometimes too, for me, I want to take care of myself by like just laying in bed. You know what I mean? Like not going out and doing those things that would actually help me. I know rest is important too, but I think sometimes it becomes a vicious cycle of rest versus exercise or moving or going for a walk even, So it's a lot of things you're navigating.
Yeah.
So.
But it's like, I can't imagine it any other way though. That's the thing. And I would rather be way too busy than the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I was, if I didn't have anything on the schedule, I'd feel like I'm not doing anything, and
it's pretty demoralizing.
Yeah. I'm like, but then what am I doing? I don't know. I can't complain.
No. And it sounds like at your core, you're just a workhorse.
Yeah. And I do like it.
Your whole life. So why, if there's no need to change now, change?
Yeah.
So where do you think you're going from here?
Well, ever since this whole voting round started, which is very recently, it's
Go vote.
Yes,
go vote
please.
for Hope.
Yeah, obviously, you would be donating to Sacred Mountain, so that is really, we've had this podcast scheduled for a while now. We keep like rescheduling it, but it has been on the books for a while, and that's kind of like, I brought it up to you. I said, oh my gosh, we have to talk about Sacred Mountain.
Yes.
So, yes, I would love your votes, but really, Sacred Mountain is like, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
So
even go donate through them directly.
Votes, yeah. So you can go to them directly. We'll link the voting page and everything. Every vote is a donation, vice versa. But I would love to continue, like, I've never worked directly with them.
I was going to say, I even would like to reach out and be like, hey, can you come on the podcast?
Yeah.
So maybe like
do a Zoom thing with them
too.
Or something like that. Like, I want to reach out to them more often or do something else in this realm. Because I've always been passionate about it. I want to put my money where my mouth is and actually do something instead of just saying I support it. Yeah. So this kind of sparked, more of a motivation for myself. So I'm actually really excited about it.
Yeah. That's really cool.
It gave me a purpose, like a bigger purpose besides everything else I do. Yeah, it's like a bigger thing.
Sparked a new project for you, it sounds like.
It is a new project. I don't have many, like I have my hobbies. I consider them hobbies. It's all the stuff I talked about already.
Yeah.
Those are my things. I don't do a lot of other things because they take up most of my time and I love them to death, but they're all in the same realm. It's all, let's say, just fitness, dance based, right?
Yeah.
But this would be a new thing for me.
Less, it sounds like your hobbies are your career.
Yes, I'm lucky to say they are.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not like I don't do other things. I don't.
Now you got a new branch.
Exactly.
Things to do.
There you go. That's better. That's well said. I'll say it's well said. And so I'm like excited because I have a lot of friends, family, a lot of people that I would love to like actually go support in that sense.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing a great job starting. You know what I mean? You're the kind of person that I feel like I can open up to. And so I'm sure that other people have felt that way around you as well. And you have to have that type of heart, I think, to get into things like this. And you said you're very empathetic. I can see that from a mile away, honestly. So I think this would be a great journey for you. And I'd love to watch it, honestly, or join in where I can.
Yay. Yeah, I would love that.
Do you have any, like, I don't know, you have talked a little bit about your boyfriend. We mentioned the dogs.
I love my dogs.
It's been like
a
big year. You guys just moved into a house.
Yeah, we did.
So
it's crazy.
let's talk more about like your personal life, if you're willing.
Sure. Do you have any questions, or do you just want me to?
I mean, I do always have questions.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet?
Oh gosh. We met online actually through Instagram.
Cool.
Fitness counts. Yeah. Kind of weird, but
Who slid into whose? DM?
he did. So
Shot.
But I knew that he was moving out here.
Okay, hold on. So he was not here.
No, he was moving out to Utah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's networking before he got out here, like a smart man.
He was very smart, yes. But he was actually a deputy in LA.
Okay.
For a really, really long time.
That's hardcore.
And so, like I said already, I've always been a supporter of military, law enforcement, everything. That's like a big thing in my life. So I like, all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, big supporter. That's really cool. I had a ton of respect right off the bat. Check. Yeah. And I was like, that's really cool. I respect you. Done.
Right
on. We both had a really big interest in fitness. We both had a lot of just like very similar things in common, and that things that we wanted in our lives. And so, yeah, he moved out here. And that's where it started. Like
nice.
Year and a half ago. I think.
Oh shoot.
Long time
so
ago.
It's like kind of recent.
But it is kind of recent. Yeah.
I'm like going on a little over 2 years, and I'm like, that's like 6 months, right? It's like 6 months in the grand scheme.
Yeah.
But that's so cool. And 2 dogs. What kind?
2 dogs. I have a Chihuahua. He has a German Shepherd.
Oh.
And now we all live together.
That's so cute. I love seeing big dogs and little dogs.
I know.
Jive.
They coexist somehow. Never thought it would happen.
I saw the one video of the German Shepherd running up the hill, and I was like, that is
He's a big
an
boy.
animal.
He's giant.
Yeah.
But he's a gentle giant, though. He's adorable.
I love him.
Yeah.
Well, good. Anything else you want to share with us?
Oh my gosh. No, I feel weird talking about myself.
I get that.
So I'm like, I don't know what to say.
You know, I think it's hard. Like, podcasts are really hard at the very beginning.
Fun, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
I feel like at this point I'm a little too comfy.
You're like, what else do you want to know about me?
Yeah. But I don't know. I think I do have one question.
Yeah.
And that's one that's been kind of on my mind. And it's more of a personal question because it's something I'm working through. How do you get to, like, be consistent?
In the gym?
Yeah.
Or in what?
Like, I think the gym is a good place to start. Okay. But it seems like it's almost just really, like, you don't even have to think about it anymore because you've done it so much. Yeah. But for those of us who are either...
It's a good question, actually.
Old athletes trying to get back into it, or, you know, we're getting into our adult bodies, and that's sometimes really hard for people, or having kids. So how would you recommend like getting back into it and making that a sustainable foundation for the rest of your life?
No, that's a great question. It's a really good one. So I think there's 2 ways to approach this one.
Okay.
So there's going to be like, well, not two ways. Obviously, consistency. You're going to have your daily, like, motivation that people talk about. But motivation is, like, it's there, but it does go away, right? I think you've probably heard that. It does go away.
I felt it.
Yeah, like, you get your motivation, but it goes away.
Yeah.
And especially if you're, like, an emotional person like I am, I'm extremely...
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I think what I've learned especially as I get older, I feel people's energy, and it drains me big time. Like, big time. And so I pull people's energies, and then I'm like, I feel like I just ran a marathon. Like, so your motivation goes away.
Yeah.
In 2 seconds. So either you need to learn, this is like the way to, like, you know what I mean? I'm just going to be blunt.
Yeah.
You either need to learn how to, like, put the blinders on in that moment and be like, no, I have a goal. I'm going to be selfish for 2 seconds and work on my goal. Cut that out. Or, realize that motivation doesn't really matter and it's all about just discipline, because discipline is really where it's at. And it's like, okay, I need to set a goal that's realistic and work on discipline, not work on, like, oh, this is my motivation for the day. And, like, you know, does that make sense?
Like a number or a physicality, anything like that. It's like, well, first I have to, like, consistently go.
Right. Like, first I just need to just go. And then, like, yeah, like, whatever because everyone's, you know what I mean? Everyone's, like, plan or their goal is going to be so different. Yeah. And what's realistic is going to be different. Like, I don't have a child, but I'm 26. Well, I don't even know what I am. I'm 26. I don't have a child. I live in Utah. There's a lot of 26-year-olds, though, that do have kids by now.
Yeah.
And are married, and I'm not there.
Yeah.
But I'm not from here, and it's like everyone expects me to have a kid by now. It's way different, though, when you're not from Utah. I'm sure you know that. Like,
having left and come back, I realized.
See?
Yeah.
Like, people, you get here and they're like, you're not married, you don't have kids. And
or
like,
also
sorry.
When you're out, they're like, wait, you're what? And you have what?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no, I get it.
So,
to each their own.
Yeah. For instance, like, me giving advice to someone who is a little bit older than myself, and I'm supposed to be this, like, person they look up to and maybe their trainer. It's obviously I have some knowledge, but it's hard because I'm like, well, actually, I've never had a child. I've never come back from that baby body that you want to say you have. So it's like, I'll give you my knowledge on the subject, but I've never been where you've been.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and everyone's bodies are so different.
Yes,
too.
Our bodies are different. I have pretty much, since I've been little, like, consistently, because of my schedule and because of just how I am and my personality, I've not really stopped moving, and I've not really stopped with the consistent working out and everything, just because of how it's been. So I haven't really, like, lost it and come back.
But at least you're honest and upfront with your clients about it. I feel like there's so many fitness influencers these days that grew up doing dance and tumbling and all these things, and they're like, get a six-pack. And I'm like, chick.
Yeah. You're like, but you were a gymnast
since you were 4.
When you were, like, 4 doing
handstands.
Exactly.
You were doing handstands before you were walking properly. It's so hard for me to support that and then have them be telling women to, like, count their macros. I'm like, and it's like, and someone reached out to me actually recently who we're friends now, and it's really cool. She's actually in my Facebook group, and, like, I try to give advice when I can when she asks me, and she reached out to me. She said, hey, I saw you actually at HOTWORX, and I was like, yes. It's great marketing for you, dude.
Yes. But she emailed me. I don't know how she got it, but I was like, cool. So she emailed me, and she said, you know, I just want to know if you think this is, like, the right way to approach this program I'm doing. And long story short, where was I going with this? Long story short, I ended up giving her at least some of my advice, but she wanted to know, like, what do I do in a week, for instance, with my workouts? And do I actually just do HOTWORX? Or what do I do with my workouts? So I gave her what I do.
Honest feedback, yeah.
And I said, yeah, I do HOTWORX a couple times a week. and these are the workouts I do. And then I also do all of these other things. And I said, to be honest with you, I teach this many classes a day. And when I coach, I do this many reps with every single client, and I'm doing this much cardio every single day on top of it. And then I'm doing this. And I was like, this is how it is. This is the reality. Like, my job is fitness. So,
and that is why you look the way you do and other people look the way they do. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone is different because we are what we're doing, right?
Right. And so I had to explain that. And it wasn't like me saying, you're going to have to work out 6 million hours a week. It was just like, just so you know, though, I do teach this many hours a week. And these are the workouts I do.
What is that? So how many hours?
I don't remember. No. Like, I didn't count them.
Interesting.
But it's a lot.
Do you feel like you're struggling to fuel yourself when you're exercising that much? No, but seriously.
Sometimes, but you get used to it. Like, that's the other thing. Your body adapts.
Okay.
And your body has a minimum it gets used to, so you got to kind of up it, and then you figure out, like, oh, okay, maybe I don't need as much. You get used to it.
Okay.
But it is a struggle, though.
I was going to say, as someone who's, like, super restricted in the past, and...
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, and getting to, like... I would say I've been in recovery with my eating disorder since this January.
Really?
This January. It started when I was 14.
Good for you, because I'm still figuring it out. So we could talk about that.
Yeah,
we should
we have time.
Oh, we should totally go there.
Okay, we've got like 20 more minutes.
It's fun.
Okay, so I'll just give a little intro, and then I do want to hear about yours. Mine started when I was 14 with a group of my friends in junior high. We were on the volleyball team, and our health teacher of the whole school was the volleyball coach. And she, instead of going to our parents and telling any of them that we were not eating and showing up to practice and passing out,
oh my gosh,
she just had her daughter and another teammate of ours watch us at lunch. And if we didn't eat, we couldn't practice. So what does that teach us? How to be better at hiding it. You know what I mean? So this is literally the health teacher that's supposed to be helping us and advocating for us. And now I'll speak for myself, but I know all of us have struggled into our early 20s with this. And I am just now, like feeling like I have like muscle to help me like go up the stairs, and I don't need my parents to come help me take my dog out for a walk. Like, I'm not running on fumes anymore. And I had the ability to like not have to be dancing or working or doing things like that. But I remember it was, I think one of the last ones was my athleta job. And I was on my feet all day, every day. And I wasn't getting any substantial meals. It's like go, 40 plus hours a week. And it wasn't until I was able to stop working, come out of survival mode from all my trauma and this eating disorder, which was giving me a bit of control in my life that I didn't know I had, or didn't feel like I had, but in a way was really hurting me in a lot of other ways. So I just am now like starting to look at myself in the mirror again in a nice way, because this is a body I've never known before. She's full. She has like
something there. Something.
Yeah. And
it's crazy.
It is. And yeah, it's nice to know when other people can understand that feeling, even though it's so terrible. Help me understand your journey with it all.
Still figuring it out. Probably will always be figuring it out. I think when fair. I don't think it's something that you just are like one day, oh cool, I'm good.
I'm healed from
I'm good.
No, I think my relationship with food is going to always be evolving.
Yeah. I think most people, or at least, I don't know if I can say that, but
I would say most people have disordered eating just because what's out there is so diety.
Yeah, right? It's pretty wonky. I think, I don't know if it necessarily started in the dance world for me or if it's more of a personality thing.
Okay.
because I've always had a weird, like, view of myself. So I don't think I can say it's the dance world that did it. Usually it's the dance world. I think people blame it on the dance world.
But do you think it could have
contributed? I think the dance world helped. Oh, big time. Yeah, big time. But yeah, it didn't help it for sure. But I think it's a personality thing, because I do think the control thing is a big one. Whether it's like you want the control over yourself or in your life period. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big part of it. But I think if you're prone to being more of the perfectionistic type, then it's easier. And it kind of goes back to what I was going to say when you asked about, like, how do you be consistent? It's for me, it's like, I've just always, I was like, if I don't go to the gym, like, in my head, then well, it's not even can't eat. That was later on in my life, but it was more like, then that's bad. Like, just, it's bad. I failed for the day. Like, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Like, that's a weird.
Your worth is, like, tied to making it to the gym.
It's my worth, or not even the gym, but just, like, I didn't, some sort of, maybe a checklist. It's almost obsessive, like, I don't even know. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I think so. I think,
but kind of like it's
your
a
control.
worth. Yeah, it's a weird control thing. But it kind of ties into exercise is a big part of that, and so is food. It can be the food thing, but mainly exercise, yes.
And that's where you were like, also tethering your worth to.
Yes, which is a big part of my worth. But also my body, like my image, is a big one.
Do you think that comes from people constantly looking at you and critiquing, or
it's more myself
comparing to others?
I think, yeah, it's more myself, because someone pointed out to me recently. They were like, no one actually, like, people don't actually care as much as you think they do. Like, people walking around the store actually probably didn't even notice that your shoes didn't match perfectly or something. And I was like, you're probably right, but I know they don't. Or I know I'm not wearing the perfect colored blank that, but to me it's so important that it matched. Or and if it doesn't, like, I'm not gonna sleep. Like, it's those things. Okay. So I don't know, who knows where that, I'd have to, like, work through that and talk to someone about it.
I was gonna say, how do you even manage that, though? Because it's always so much easier said than done. Just like they said, people don't care. Don't worry about it.
That's what I mean. Other people, they care less. They got more important things to do.
People have told me that my whole life
about my hands. They've got kids to worry about. They've got way more important things, right?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to impress them and myself so much. Like, I care so much, because to me that image or that thing is, like, so important. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I can't give you a straight answer on that.
No, and I think that'll probably, I mean, everyone listening too, I'm sure, can be like, yeah, no, I worry about the same things.
But I also think, like, part of me doesn't want to let that go necessarily, because it's like that drive to get me to be so, not good, but, like, it drives me to be better.
So finding the balance maybe is more what you're looking for.
I would love a balance eventually. Please.
Like, I can go out to the grocery store in my PJs or whatever and be fine. But when it comes to dancing or teaching or something, then I need to be on.
Like, yeah, balance might be good.
I'm not saying you have to go to the grocery store in your PJs, but I'm saying it's like, it's finding those things for you. It seems like that would be that. Right now in therapy, I'm trying to find ways to reward myself in small ways and in big ways, because I'm now, like, high functioning again, which I haven't been in the last couple years. Mm-hmm. And it's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable to be in my skin right now, and finding those, like, little rewards of, like, even if it's just kind of like a pat on the back or going to sit out in the sun for 5 minutes, you know what I mean, is helping me get more comfortable with those things. So maybe the small rewards when you're doing those.
No, it should. You're right.
But, well, is there anything else you want to talk about on the eating disorder front?
I mean, speaking of that, I think just awareness of that is important. Like, I think thinking about how you approach it with kids is important. Dancers, like, just how you talk about it all is good. Whenever I'm working with them, like, if they have questions, I try to answer the best I can.
Yeah.
I know, like, for me, something that made a big difference was when someone at, like, a director that I worked with in New York, I think I was probably 19 at the time,
Okay.
and I was struggling with it a lot, but I had a lot of muscle, like more than I do now, like a ton of muscle on me. I was very, very strong at the time.
Well, you were powerlifting as a child, weren't you?
Well, yeah, and at
little
19, like, I had a lot more muscle. So I probably looked a lot bigger, but I was never, I wouldn't say bulky.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess for her, in her eyes, she saw me as very bulky. And in the dance world, you know, they want you to be pretty lean. You know, they want you to be able to be lifted by the guys. And that's what they want. It's a look.
Mm-hmm.
And I am tall. I am tall.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'7".
Okay.
So almost 5'8". And depending on the guys that you have, sometimes that's pretty tall.
Yeah, yeah.
So the woman that I was working with at the time, she was mainly an actress. She wasn't a dancer herself.
Okay.
But I just remember her coming up behind me one day in rehearsal, and we were doing an acting, like, workshop. So I was already out of my element because speaking, especially, like, this is fine, but speaking on camera is really hard for me already.
Yeah.
So I remember I was out of my element already, uncomfortable, but I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. We were doing monologues, super terrible for me. But she came up behind me and she grabbed my shoulders and she was like, so big, and just, like, squeezed me so big and said it a couple times. And, like, most people wouldn't care about that. But whatever, at the time for me, not good.
I think most people who aren't trying to be big
Not
would
good.
take it not
Because
good.
for me at the time, the amount of cardio and, like, soup diets or whatever I was doing at the time, craziness that I was following because it was me and I was trying to be the smallest I could be.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah. You're
I
doing your
was,
best.
just so heartbroken.
Do you think you just put on muscle easier
Oh, I do.
or better? And so
When if I try, I do really well with it.
Jealous.
Right?
Most people
like,
would be
if I were working for it,
but
I will have to
because
watch it right
she
now.
wanted you to be a ballerina.
She wanted a certain look, but yeah, it's those comments, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be careful.
100%. Also, don't comment on what
Also,
people are
doesn't
eating.
matter. Well, and it wasn't even like my food choices. But yeah, it just hit me a certain way, certain moment. She didn't even mean it. She probably meant strong. Who cares? It just was.
It went in your ear, something else.
Who the child cares?
Yeah.
Right?
Who cares? Yeah.
But it was just the timing.
Yeah.
It didn't matter at the moment. For me, it was a weird moment, and it lasted for a long time after that. And so whatever, like, my students, if we talk about nutrition and they have questions, I address things right away. And if they ask me things or they have, like, any sort of, oh, well, I thought you couldn't eat this because of this. And I'm like, no, we're going to nip that in the bud right now.
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
Carbs are okay. Like, we talk about it because, you know, I'm not, like, technically it's out of my scope to write nutrition plans for people, but I'm a coach, so I can advise things. And I'm like, no, we're actually going to do this. And even though I struggle with things, I still know right from wrong with all of that. And I have common sense.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I don't have the best, like, you know, I'm not perfect, but hopefully I can, like, lead you in a better direction.
Well, and based on your experience of maybe poor communicating coaches and instructors in the past, you are learning from that and adjusting so that your students, clients would be not having to go through what you went through at the very least, right? You know, someone said something to me once that was, if they can't fix it in 5 seconds, don't say anything about it. So it's not like something in your teeth or like your hair is out of place or something like that can't be fixed like that. it either needs to be more like one-on-one conversation, which no, probably not, because it's none of your business most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But commenting on people's bodies, I had a friend who stopped eating with her coworkers because they would always be like, oh, you're eating fries, or you're not eating fries, or it's none of your business what people are eating or doing. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
let them be. And if you're really worried about them, go in and have like a nice conversation with them and let them know you're worried instead of like making things worse.
Totally.
That's my 2 cents with it all.
Yeah.
But,
No, I agree. So,
well, thank you so much for your vulnerability and your willingness to open.
It feels good.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Feels good to talk.
Yeah, I know. That's literally why I do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should do that more often.
I should come to one of your Pilates classes
You
like
should.
I had talked about.
Yes, you should.
Because I have never tried Reformer's Pilates.
You'll love it.
Is there
You will love it.
adaptions?
Oh,
or
of
do
course.
I need to bring like
No, you'll be
straps
fine.
and stuff? Okay.
I got you.
Okay,
I
cool.
got you.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Hope.
Yeah,
It
thank
was
you.
lovely.
Thanks.